So thanks everyone for joining the session, and thanks for everyone who has already filled this monthly feedback form. It helps me to understand, okay, what are the things we you want me to cover, and we will also cover the things accordingly. So I can see the five people have filled this form, and yes, okay. So yes, we will cover this mining expenses and all those things. We have tried to cover the things, but maybe we'll try to cover more in detail. And also, yeah, we will also try to cover these things. So I will make these points in my notebook, and I will make sure in the future session we will cover those things. And I think how to purchase second-hand good miners. Yes, we have just discussed about a little bit, but yes, as we will move ahead, we will discuss more about the things and how you can tweak the things as we have discussed in the previous session. If you're just purchasing a normal S9 miner, what are the things you have to do? We will try, like we will also maybe once we cover few parts of minor, then I will try to cover this as well. Then definitely we will try to cover the communication protocols as well, because first we will understand all those basics, then we will see, okay, how these things are communicating, like how the mining pool is communicating with the miners, what are the data they are exchanging between each other, and what are the protocols they are going to use, and even in the hash board and the PSU, what are the communication protocols they are using, or the control board or the hash board, what are the communication protocol they are using. We will try to cover their things as well. Mining pools, yes. So maybe next session I will cover in depth about mining pools. What are the top mining pools? And even we will also discuss about the mining pools decentralization and what are some criteria you have to look for, or I will encourage everyone to look for while choosing the mining pool. So these things we will also try to discuss this. Okay, and yeah, decentralized mining pool and expense and yeah, these things I will make sure I will try to cover all those things. So thanks everyone for filling this form, and maybe we will start our session. So as we have discussed how to purchase a second-hand miners, but let us suppose if you have purchased it and now you just have a miner, how you will use those things, okay? So let us suppose if you have an old miner, and if you are not using, or if you are not easily, some of the miner needs some bridge to communicate, means some of the miners you can just directly connect the Ethernet to the router and it will work. And in some of the miner, maybe you also need a Wi-Fi bridge. Or if you want to use a wireless, because sometimes it is not reachable, like the router is too far and you just want to use a wireless or Wi-Fi protocol, that time you can also use a bridge. A bridge will convert those wireless communication protocol to the Ethernet. So this thing also you can do that. Then the challenge is, yes, Wi-Fi bridge, if you are using, you need to have some bridge which will connect to the router and which will be indicating as a mediator between the router or the miner. Okay. So, and there are some miners which also have a dual mode, like they will work with the Ethernet and you can also connect the bridge, and the bridge will help as a wireless communication protocol as well. Now, let us suppose if you want to set up those things. So I have tried to find out some of the old snapshot which I was having earlier, like I was giving training to some of the companies. So yes, in that there would be some column like this, wizard and operative status. That is mostly we are talking about the Antminer. All other miners will be also having the similar kind of thing, and we can set up those things. So what we need to do is just need to set the Wi-Fi hotspot. Think like you have just purchased another router. You have to fill all those details. And after that, just once you connect the VJAR and everything, the credential will get saved and your miner will get connected to the router, and through this internet or the TCP IP protocol, it will be connecting to the mining pool as well. So here, maybe you just need to put the SSID and all those things. You just need to put, so this is just a basic thing. So you know, you don't need to be an engineer to do those things. You can easily set up all those things, Wi-Fi hotspots and all those things. And let us suppose you found this S9. So the first thing and the most important thing you have to do is the reset the device. Okay. Now we will also talk about okay, what type of miners we will be getting. Like there are different types of miners. Like earlier we have discussed about uh, Antminer S9, right? And I have told you the latest version is Antminer. Means there are so many versions, but S19 is also very popular. S19 Pro is there. S21 is there. Okay, but this is not just a model number. Okay, there are also different variant of this model number as well. Like uh, if you will search about, there are three main types of miner you will get. One is air cooling, one is hydro cooling, and third one is immersion cooling. Air cooling, just like we will be having a fan, it is very easy to set up. So if so S19 Pro, if I'm not wrong, also comes with uh, the air cooling model. Along with that, it also comes with this hydro cooling model, and it also comes with the immersion cooling model. So whichever you want to purchase, so it totally depends on the requirement as well. Let us suppose if you want a miner just for a small and uh, medium scale, maybe for home miner and all those things, then you will be always choosing air cooling. So S19 Pro will also come with air cooling. So S19 Pro or S19. And the first thing is the cost. So upfront cost would be very less in air cooling model. And second thing is maintenance. So easy to maintain because you don't need some container for this water cooling and all those things. You don't need to filter all those things. You just need to connect the fans. Yes, it will be little noisy. So if you are using some S19 Pro and this thing, yes, it will be little noisy. So this is the air cooling model. If you are purchasing the hydro cooling model, then here the water will be used to cool the whole AC. Okay, so the all the components, so the complexity would be more in the hydro cooling model. Even the upfront cost would also be more. But the thing is, it will be more efficient as compared to hydro and as compared to air cooling, sorry. So what does it mean? Means if you're using the hydro cooling, yes, the upfront cost would be more, even the complexity would be more, but it will be more efficient. So how much uh, power he's consuming and how much terahash it will be generating comparing to the hydro cooling, it will, sorry, compared to the air cooling, the hydro cooling would be much more efficient, but the upfront cost would be more and even hard to maintain, or the maintenance cost would be also more. So here, if you are working for any industry or you are a professional Bitcoin miner, then most probably you will be using hydro cooling. And sometimes for home purpose, let us suppose if you are putting a miner inside your home, that time also sometimes people prefer the hydro cooling because it is less noisy as compared to air cooling. So just water will be used, and if the thing is like if in India like the temperature is very high sometimes in summer season, right? As compared to Canada and all other uh, countries. So in those scenarios, immersion cooling there should be used to cool the A6. Okay. So in minor, PSU will not get heat much. controller will not get heat much. You have to take care of ASICs because ASICs are those who are doing all those operations, calculation, and sometimes ASICs temperature will go very, very high. So to cool this ASICs, you have to use either air cooling method or the hydro cooling or the immersion cooling. Okay. So here this is S9 which we are talking about. This is just air cooling model because this has a fan. If you will see hydro cooling, maybe I can show it to you. So Antminer S19 hydro. So yes, so you can see this. So they don't have fan, they have this pipes, and those water is flowing on top of the A6, which will take up the heat, and this will be circulating overall. Okay, so this is a hydro cooling model, and even the immersion cooling would be similar. So Antminer comes with all the three. So in the immersion cooling, you will see, okay, maybe, yeah, this one. So in that also the similar thing, only the thing is the water, instead of water, they will be using a different liquid to cool out all those ASICs. Okay. As per cost, yes, air cooling would be cheaper, then the hydro cooling will come into the picture, and at last the immersion cooling. Okay. Now, if you want to reset this, there would be always a pin behind that, just like all other devices. You just need to put some pin inside this and it will get reset. It will take some around 2 to 10 minutes. And after that, uh, the whole factory reset will happen. And most of the time, you will not be using, because by default, this int miner will be having the firmware or the operating system which comes from the int miner. Okay. But most of the time, people don't want to use this because there are so many custom firmware as well which you can use in the same hardware. So I can give you an example. Okay, I'm not sure, you might have seen so many people use Xiaomi phones, and in Xiaomi phones you can change the OS. Okay, so if you are using Xiaomi phones, there is an OS from MIUS. They will this, or right now it is coming with the Hyper OS. But what you want, if you want to put a vanilla flavor of the Android, you can put it. Or if you want to put some other operating system as well, you can put it because the bootloader is not logged in MI phones, right? So in Antminer S19 as well, they have logged it, but you can change the firmware as well. And why will you do that? Because maybe you don't want Antminer to control your device in some or other way. That's why you don't want to use those firmware or the software written by the company itself. So what are some alternative we will discuss? So one, the most important one is the Brain OS. So yes. So what it does, they are not into the hardware at the moment. They are working internally. They are preparing the ASICs, but those ASICs are not as powerful as Antminer ASICs. Okay. Brain OS is from European company. You can see all major Bitmain Antminer models supported. What does it mean? Means this firmware, you can install it inside the Antminer and all other model, just like Bitex did the reverse engineering, and they are using this BM. We have seen this model number, right? BM1366, right? Which is the chip or the ASIC from Antminer. and they have reverse engineering it, and after that, they have written the code, right? Brain OS has a team, and they also have a pretty good documentation how you can flash this firmware on top of Antminer. So that will give extra abstraction layer or maybe extra protection that Antminer may not be able to communicate with your hardware using the operating system. Means I can give you an example. You might have seen right now, recently Android has updated. If you guys are using Android phone, you might have seen next morning you woke up and you have seen the dialer got changed, right? Because that is Android is owned by Google, and by default, once you're purchasing the mobile phone, it is by default in auto update. So even you have just connected your internet, and without your permission, your dialer, your messenger, all those things got updated, which are Google softwares. Okay, and many of them might have seen some memes on this dialer. I might you might have seen that recent changes, right? The similar way as Antminer are putting that operating system, if they want, maybe they can communicate with the devices which you have purchased it, because we don't know what are the whole code, because earlier Bitmain was making all those code open source, but I can show it to you. So if you will go search for Bitmain Antminer GitHub, you will find it out. They have uh, they have the public repository, but they are not updating it because initially, if you remember the case which I have discussed, uh, that Antminer can turn off your device or can control your device. Last time I have, yes. So this one. So the Bitmain can remotely shut down your Antminer. Okay. So what has happened? That time Antminer was putting all those code open source, and one European guy that time created a bug on their Antminer directory, means the GitHub repository, and mentioned that this code is uh, means this code is exposing some port, and through that Bitmain can connect with the miners anytime, whenever they want. And believe me, Antminer have already seen this bug, but they were not resolving it, and it was there for more than 10 months. But then this news got highlighted by the news media, and later Antminer told, okay, this was a small mistake done by their engineers, and after 1 year they told they have removed it. But what they have done after that, they are not updating those GitHub repos. So whatever the latest firmware they are putting inside that hardware, we are not sure what are the code is there, because their open source repository is not updated. Okay, so Brains and all other companies, so we will discuss about all others as well. So Brains is one of them. Bixbit is also one of them. Yes. So these are two popular one. And then there is a Lux OS also. Most of them are from, so this is also from Europe. This company is from, this also based in Europe. And Lux OS, if I'm not wrong, is also from, uh, okay, Bitcoin miner firmware. Yes. So you might be thinking, okay, can I install it directly? Yes, you can just install it. So you might be thinking, okay, so these all are free, so how these guys are earning? Okay, so this is type of software. So once you install this in your S19J Pro, and once you connect that device in your laptop, and maybe you are just using that IP, you will get this type of interface. Someone has any question or anything? So, yes, so we were discussing, yes, this is this type of dashboard you will be getting. But the second most question would be, okay, if we are using this, how much we have to pay for them? So the thing is, they will also improve the performance, okay? So they have written the firmware in a very optimal way that it will perform better in the same hardware. So let us suppose if you are using Antminer S19, okay, so I will take an example of Antminer S19. So one is you will be using the proprietary software or the firmware which is coming from Antminer, or you can use Braiins or Bixbit operating system inside your Antminer. Okay. Now you may ask, okay, what is the advantage? First advantage, as I mentioned, Antminer should not able to communicate with your miners, right? So that is one way. Maybe there is some abstraction because now there is a third party software you are using. Second thing is it increase the ASIC performance and also optimize the power use, okay? Because those are very good software engineers, they have written a firmware in such a way that is less bulky as compared to the proprietary firmware. And if you're using this, so I can give an example. If you're using this, I have used Braiins OS and Bixbit, and they will give you roughly 10% of boost. So what does it mean, roughly 10% of the boost? Means let us suppose you are getting 80 terahash, then you might be getting 88 terahash if you are using this firmware. So performance will get increased. And on those performance, those guys earn money. So how? They have already written the code in such a way 2% cut they will take. Okay. So let us suppose 80 terahash you are getting per second. Maybe if you are using this Braiins or Bixbit, roughly you are getting 88 terahash per second. I'm just giving a rough example. Sometimes it might give 50 to 20%, but as I have experienced, it will give you roughly around 10% of boost. If you are, because the thing is, so many customization you can do. So if you know very good about mining and all those things, there are so many modes available, high performance mode, optimal modes. Okay, these things are there, which will make sure that power will not get wasted and you will get the optimal performance from the hardware. So they have so many extra customization. With the help of these customization, sometimes you will able to get some boost, which would be roughly 10%, 15%, or 20%. So if they are giving you something around 88 terahash per second, then they will take 2% cut and it will go to their address. Okay. So now think about it, how they are earning. Okay. So they don't own the hardware at the moment. They have just created this software. Everyone else are putting their software. And I know like Brain OS, I have seen the revenue earlier. They are earning a lot because if one miner company are using Brain OS in all of their miners, think about 2% cut. So you can see all the top miners, all the top mining firm, how much they are earning. And if they have a tie with Brains, take 2% of it. And without any electricity without purchasing hardware, they will be keep getting 2% cut just for the firmware they have built. So this is a pretty good business. So if you are a very good uh, software engineer, you can also think like this. So if you will able to make a firmware or a software which can boost the performance and maybe make it open source, because these code is also open source, okay? Because if you are not trusting Antminer, you should also not trust Braiins as well. You should not trust Bixbit as well. But all the codes you will able to find it on GitHub. So if you will search Braiins OS GitHub, you will find those all those code and the public APIs, and you can refer all those things as well. So these are open source. Even Bixbit is also open source. But as they claim, like Braiins is more popular, Bixbit claims like okay, you can also use their firmware for Watts Miner, but I have used it, it was not working fine. But maybe they will update. So they mention it works for Watts Miner, it works for Antminer as well. Antminer, I have used it, it is working fine. For Watts Miner, in my case, it was not working well. But yes, maybe now maybe it might be working. So these are also some of the things you can use. Okay, so now we will discuss. Okay, we have reset it, and let us suppose we want to install a third-party operating system. What we have to do is we can directly go to the documentation. So here maybe we will talk about the Braiins OS. You just need to download the toolbox, go to their official website, download the toolbox. If you're using Windows machine or Linux machine, for all those machines, the toolbox is available. You just need to download it, unzip it, scan the network, install the operating system in the miner, and they will do all those things. Okay, so you will able to install it. But most of the time, sometimes it happens like if you have installed the Braiins OS, it might be sometimes pretty hard for you to go back to the legacy firmware. So please keep in mind and make sure they have mentioned it like you can, if you want to go back, maybe then I would not recommend to you try third party, but I will recommend to those which you are purchasing the third party or the old ASICs, because if you're purchasing a new ASIC, in that you will be getting the warranty, and if you change the operating system, the warranty will get void. But let us suppose, as we have discussed, you should always start with the old miner. And if old miner is pretty old, there is no warranty system over there, then I would always recommend to try whatever you want to do. Because now warranty is not there. So you can use Braiins OS. Later you can also uh, install Bixbit and see, okay, what are the things and how these things would work. So, okay, yes. So now the setup guide we will see. So in this, yes, because you will get the toolbox, they will able to fetch what are the devices are connected in the same laptop if you're connecting to the local area network, and you can just browse through it, put the credential, and after that you just need to next, and you will able to install it. And once you install it, you will see this type of dashboard after that. They will be having the dashboard. So let us suppose this we have installed it in the Antminer S9. You will able to see the overall status, hash rate, temperature, and if you will go to the configuration section, you might able to find some of the configuration. Like if you want to run it for a high performance mode, if you want little less noisy, you can use another one. So it will give more efficiency in watt per terahash and total power consumption. Then you can also do the pool configurations. If you will see here, you can do the multiple pool configuration. Here, even it is showing the hashboard. So if you want to configure the hashboard, let us suppose you don't want to, there are 8 hashboards connected and one hashboard is not working. So maybe in the traditional Antminer firmware, you will not able to use that thing. But in Braiins OS, even one of the hashboard or ASIC is not working, you can stop it and you can use that miner for rest of the hashboard. Okay. So these type of configuration and these things, you can do it with all those third-party operating system which are there, but you will not able to do it with the proprietary software which those companies are currently providing. Even you can do the pools configuration, just like if you are using mining pool, you just need to put the pool's URL, username, password, it will get connected, and you can put a multiple pools, and you can also set it accordingly. And these are some settings you can do it. So these all things would be very basics, and you will able to do it. Now, if you want to, because earlier, if you remember, we have discussed about just a normal fan if you want to change it, right? But if you want, because most of the time in the cooling, fan will be working 24 cross 7, and most of the time, either fan will get damaged or the AC will get damaged. In my experience, 99% of the times, control board will always be safe. Maybe in some cases, PSU may not be working. Okay, so fan, PSU, and the hash board. These are the three main components you sometimes you might need to change. Fan is the most frequent one. Like if it is running 24 cross 7, maybe in a year or in a 2 year you might need to change the fan. So yes, we have discussed the basic things how you can change. You can open this fan, connect it like this, and remove it. So this is for PSU fan, if you can see it here, right? And this bigger fan which you are seeing it, this is specifically for A6. And if you are using as a home miner in Brain OS, you can also use the mode as a silent mode. In that, they will work in a high efficient mode and less fan noise would be there. So maybe less dB fan noise you will be seeing. Then, yeah, the final assembly and all those things. So at least you get the basic idea about how to install a third-party operating system. Even there is a pretty good documentation. Let us suppose if you want to use this Brain OS, just go to the documentation section. And if you want to build something like this, I would recommend to go through, like if you are a developer, see how Bitex is doing. They have already written the code, okay? And then you can go to this BrainOS GitHub repository and you can see how those guys are doing, okay? You will find all those things. If you want to do, yeah, this I was talking about, okay? Dynamic performance scaling. Like you want a stable, you want all those things. So this you can choose it. So and they will also do all those things. So if temperature got triggered, maybe they are pretty sure they want to make it cool down. So they will not be working on the full performance mode. They will go into the sleep mode and the device will be working sleep mode until or unless the temperature will go to the certain threshold. These are the options they have mentioned it, like how you can do these all those things. Even the fan speed you can set. So in fan speed, you just need to set the duty cycle, and based on the duty cycle, you can change those fan speed, and it will be automatically controlled. Like if temperature got increased, the control board is the main boss. So control board will able to manage all those things in the fan and all those things. Okay. And if anything wrong would happen, let us suppose the short circuit happened and all those things. So these all firmware has the cutoff thing. So if any short circuit they will see or they will feel, or maybe if they are communicating with the PSU and they find out some voltage fluctuation, they will cut off everything and make sure they will send those signals to the person who is monitoring all those devices. So these all things would be there. Okay. And there are so many methods others are using. Even if you want to use a basic, so let us suppose you don't want to use Antminer. You don't want to use Watts miner. So Watts miner is little costly as compared to the Antminer, but the performance is also uh, better sometime in Watts miner. And Canon is struggling at the moment. And let us suppose if you want to use a home miner, which is very, very silent, and maybe you don't have a high power supply which they need, and you just want to use some of your uh, power units and use those, then there is a company from US which is mostly focusing on solo mining and home mining. So you can search about it. So this is the device, okay? FutureBit, okay? So they have devices like Apollo 2nd in this, and these are pretty cheap. If I'm not wrong, $400, $500. Let me see. This is, yeah, because this is a full node system along with the home miner. So means you will be running the full Bitcoin node along with the miner itself, okay? But if we are just, let me see all the products. So if you are just using the, yes, so if you are just using a ASIC miner, so this is not as powerful as compared to Antminer and Watts miner because those are the industry grade devices, right? But let us suppose we don't want to run a mining farm. We just want to contribute on Bitcoin ecosystem. We want to run a full node, and also we want to run a silent miner, which can be put somewhere in at home, very less noisy, take some 200, 300 watt, but watts to performance means what we call it more optimal is watt per terahash. That should be optimal, right? So if you will compare this Apollo BTC with Antminer and Watts miner, these devices are very optimal because these are low power, high optimized Bitcoin miner, mostly for home miners. And this is pretty cheap, like 375 or $400. And if you want to run full node system along with the miner, so I think it comes with the 2 TB storage as well. Uh, I might need to double check. Yes, some SSD drive, either 2 T, yeah. So yes, it comes with 1 or 2 TB SSD. And you can also run solo pools. So you, if you don't want to use the mining pools because maybe the mining pools are centralized and you don't want to use those mining pools, you can also do the solo mining. And recently the news was there, someone was using this Apollo, did solo mining. Let me search it. There was a news, solo mining. Fully. Yes. So even the future bit Apollo 2nd and similar rigs were successful mining the entire Bitcoin blocks. So yes, maybe it is, but that guy earned 3.15 BTC. And it was fully doing the solo mining. Solo mining means this device itself will create the block template, will send it because it is also running as a full node. It will send it to other mining pool and it will write the whole template on the blockchain. So this is a pretty good. So if you are a Bitcoin maxi and maybe focus more on the decentralization, don't want to rely on the centralized mining pool because most of the centralized mining pool are using Stratum V1. If you will ask me what is Stratum V1, as we are communicating, I'm communicating with you through English. The mining pools also use some language to communicate with the miner. So there are Stratum V2, Stratum V1, sorry, and Stratum V2. Okay. So we will discuss these things in very details once we will discuss about, because in the next session we will be discussing about this report, okay, which I have prepared this year for Bitcoin mining pools and the centralization. Okay, so this research I have done it, I think in March, if I'm not wrong. So we will discuss it in the next session. In that time, we will discuss about Stratum as well in detail. But right now, just think like Stratum V1 is like a mining pool wants to send some information. Now you will ask me what information they want to send to miner. So they will give you some task, give you some task to do. Some task means yes, to find the norms. These are the operation you have to do, right? So these data they will give. Number of transactions which you want to do. These things they will give, right? So here they are using Stratum V1. But Stratum V1 is has so many disadvantages as well. What are the disadvantages? It gives more power to the mining pool because if mining pool are using Stratum V1 protocol, miners will never able to add the transaction it wants. So let us suppose we will take an example, okay? So let us suppose this is a mempool and mempool have 10 transaction 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we will take an example of Foundry USA. Uh, uh, I just want to mute things. Yes, so okay, we were mm, yeah, just give me a second. Yeah, we were discussing about how mining pools communicate with the miner. So I was taking an example. So let us suppose in mempool we have a 10 transaction at the moment. Okay, there could be so many, but as example, I'm just let us suppose we have 10 transaction, and I'm taking example of Foundry USA, which is a very popular one and controls sometimes 40% or maybe 38% of the whole mining uh, percentage, right? Mining pool contribution. So Foundry USA is currently using Stratum V1. Okay. So what does it means? Stratum V1, they are these only Foundry USA will decide what are the transactions they want to include in the block. Okay. And after once they decide it, they will distribute this task and give it to the mining pool. So give it to the miners. Okay. And miners has no say if they want to include any other transaction they want to add. Let us suppose there is another transaction which came 11 and which has maybe higher fees. And as a miner, I want to include this, but I cannot because Stratum V1 will not allow it. So in Foundry USA, whatever transaction they will choose, as we are using Foundry USA mining pool, we have to only include those in the block. So there are so many power were there in the Foundry USA. Okay. But in Stratum V2, they have done some optimization in that there are three main communication protocols, which we will discuss it in the next session maybe. But just for a understanding, a Foundry USA will update Stratum V1 to Stratum V2. So maybe tomorrow Foundry USA say we also support Stratum V2. What will happen? Miners will get more power. What does it mean? Means with using Stratum V2, you will able to use or miners will able to choose what are the transactions they want to include. So this power will move from mining pool to miners. And Stratum V2 is not a latest protocol right now. Stratum V2 is also very old. But the thing is, all those miners or mining pools are not currently. So if you will see a Foundry USA, if you say F2 pool, if you see all other, they are still using Stratum V1 because they don't want to give out those control to the miners. They don't want to give this functionality to the miners. That's why they are not even Stratum V2. If you will see, okay, when Stratum V2 was founded, it is old. You can see 2019, right now 2025. Even if you will see, okay, till 2020, it got stabilizer or everything, but people are not using it. Some pools are using it, like Ocean Pool. If you're using Ocean Pool, they are supporting Stratum V2, but all the popular one, most popular one, they are not using. So what are those most popular one? If you will see here, because we will discuss this document later, but if you will, I will show you some, yeah. So yes, the Foundry has 31.4%, Antpool has 31.7, then this, and you can see the Ocean Pool, no name, right? Because they have 1% or the less than 1%. That's why you are not. So it Ocean Pools comes under others. So Foundry USA, Ant Pool, and VRBTC and F2 Pool or Mara or Spider Pool are not moving from Stratum V1 to Stratum V2. So the thing is, if we want Bitcoin more decentralized, we want to encourage and use those mining pools which are using Stratum V2 protocols. Okay, so I believe you got the basic idea. What is the difference between Stratum V1 and V2? So yes, there are so many other modification as well in Stratum V2, which we will discuss it once we will discuss this case study about the Bitcoin mining pool. But for the time being, at least you got the idea how this mining pool communicate with the miners. Okay, and even mining pool will make sure what are the tasks it is giving, it is not repeated because it should not happen like your miner. Let us suppose I'm also connected to F2 pool. So let us suppose Shivam is also doing mining, and maybe Rajendra is also doing mining, let us suppose, and both are using F2 pool. F2 pool is trying to maybe I can go to the mempool and see, okay, which one is the current mempool.space. And let us suppose, yeah, 919207 already mine, so 919208. So 919208. F2 pool will make sure and keep communicating because it may happen. I'm finding a nonce between 1 to 100. And if you are also doing from 70 to 150, we are doing some repetitive work here because 70 to 100 I'm also trying, 70 to 100 you are also trying, and that means hash rates are getting wasted. So mining pool will keep communicating through Stratum V1 protocol and will assign, okay, you have to find the data between 1 to 100 and Razian maybe 100 too. 200. And then once the miner will receive it, so who will receive it? So we will talk about, okay, in Rajan case, 100 to 200, okay? In between, because as you know, and we have discussed in the starting session, mining is nothing but just like finding nonce, right? So if you are keep trying, I'm also keep trying, and this you got, you have to find it between this number to this number. And you also have 18 ASICs, right? Because one miner will not having only one ASIC, right? It could be multiple of ASICs. Then the control board will make sure that this will get divided correctly to the ASICs. And if some of the ASICs are not working, they will divide it accordingly. And it will keep updating. F2 pool will keep giving you these things, and you will be keep calculating. And after that, you will be keep sending back all those information. So how these things will be communicating? Using this. What are the formats? Similar JSON, RC format they will be using it. Okay. So yes, this is the way how things work. Now we have discussed about the types of the miner as well. What are the cooling process we use, right? And if you will ask me, okay, if you want to join any of the company, even as a consultant and all those things, what are the things you should be aware of? So you should know what control board is. You should know what hash board is, because I remember someone has asked this question in the feedback form. Control board, hash board, PSU, then fans or cooling method is stratum. If you know this basic thing, that is more than sufficient for a fresher one. If you want a senior kind of role, then you need to know more things like how BVFS tuning. So you will ask me, okay, what is this? This is nothing but because based on the temperature and all those things, you have to tune the ASICs for better performance. In those cases, we our control board needs to dynamically tune the ASICs for better performance. Okay, and this is the same thing what Brains and other third party are able to do with the same hardware, because the hardware is same. And you might have seen, okay, Samsung is using the same chip. Let us suppose it's the same Snapdragon 888, and Xiaomi is also using Snapdragon 888. But sometimes you will see the Samsung might be able to perform better with the same chip as compared to some other devices, or vice versa, right? And sometimes the same thing, like Samsung is also using the similar Sony sensor for their camera, and maybe Google is also using, or some other Nokia is also using the same Sony camera sensor. So the main thing is the optimization. So hardware is the one thing. Optimization, how well you have optimized your firmware or the software, and how well you have optimized your application, that also differentiate the performance. So yes, the hardware is same in the both cases, but the third party OS are able to perform better because maybe they have done a better DVFS tuning or a better optimization, or maybe less bulky software, because their motivation is different. Antminer motivation is because they are not selling the software, right? Software is uh, free bundle with the hardware, right? If you are just purchasing the hardware, software is free. You are not paying for the software. Means if you will think like a company, right? But for Brain and all those companies, they are only selling the firmware. So they have to make sure they are making the solution or the tools very, very efficient, then only the people will use. So that's why they focus more on the optimization to make sure they will give you the better hash rate. And if they are giving you the better hash rate, then they can also charge you the cut. Like if I will help you to earn some amount, I can charge some commission. So the same thing they do. So yeah, I think you get the basic idea about all those third-party operating systems. And believe me, earlier I was thinking, okay, maybe they have invested a lot of money in research and all those things, but whether they are earning or not. But after I got the numbers, once I was discussing with some of the team members, they are earning a very huge amount of money. That's why they are also investing on, as I mentioned, right? Many of the European companies are making their own ASICs, right? So Braiins is also working on this. So if you will see, Braiins, mm, Braiins hardware, let me see, because they have announced. Uh, okay, so as I told you, right, the control board is a little easy. This control board may work for S19 series. So they have also built the control board, and I know they are also working on ASIC. They have already announced it. That's why I'm searching on Google. Otherwise, I know many companies are working on it, but I could not name those companies. Brain, uh, it's for they have announced it recently. Yes, so yes, Brains announced it for ASIC, uh, but this is in testing phase. As I mentioned, like hardware is hard, like it takes time. You have to optimize. I think what is the name? Okay, so right now the test chip they are using it for Brain mini miners and DEC, and that okay that is working as a solo miner. So solo miner is nothing but the same which we have discussed, future bit, right? So I think because right now, initially you will make just like in India, right? We haven't started manufacturing the uh, Android phones, right? We have started. There are a few companies in India in Noida. They have started making keypad phones first, right? Similar way, I think the Brains is also started building ASIC, but those are not very powerful and not competitive as compared to Antminer and Watts miner. So they are making it for house mining or home mining or the solo mining, which the same future bit is working. And maybe in future, once they optimize very well, then definitely they will also make industrial grade ASICs as well. And there are so many companies like I know six, and there would be more which I'm not aware of. They are working on those ASICs as well. Sure. So yeah, that's all from my side. If you guys have any doubts or anything, you can ask. I hope you like the session or maybe get some good information about those third-party OS, how they are earning, and what are the things they are doing differently. Because there might be so many questions in people. I have seen people ask this thing, okay, if the hardware is from Antminer, well, why Antminer is not making the software is well optimized? Because they can do it better than the Bixbit and all those brains. But think like in a business perspective, right? If they work more on the hardware side and optimize it more because they are selling the hardware more and more. Software is just a complementary thing they are selling. And also they want to make sure that they are they want to make sure they will not give more and more configuration thing. Just like many of the mobile phones company will also not give you so many flexibility to do that, right? So they want people will not do so many hands-on and try because if you will able to do it, maybe sometimes you will not purchase the newer model. You can keep using the older model with some tweak which you want to do it. So that's as a company, people don't want to do that. Sure. That's all from my side. Hope you like the session. Please feel free to discuss anything which we have covered. Anything regarding third-party OS, any doubts regarding how to install those things or any doubts regarding the discussion which we have made for power supply, fan, and even the cooling system which we have discussed. So feel free to discuss. Most of the topics I have covered it for today. Next session, our focus would be more on the mining pools. We will see, okay, what are the different types of mining pool? Which one use the Stratum V1, Stratum V2? We will try to go in depth. Then we will see, okay, everyone talks about the centralization, centralized, decentralized pools. But I'm not aware about the decentralized pool. We will discuss about it. Then we will discuss about the fee structure, payout mechanism, and all those things. And maybe we will discuss about some of the model, like how you should, like if you want to go to the mining and you don't want to do solo mining, because if you want to do solo mining, then I would prefer purchasing these type of devices. And let us suppose no, you are focusing more on the profitability and you don't want solo mining, you want predictable results. Then sometimes you have to use or rely on the pool, mining pools. Then which mining pool you use? These things also we will discuss it in the next session. Sure. So yeah, that's all from my side.